like what our society has like sold us is these ideas of like, hey, drink this powder or take this pill and like you'll feel better or you'll lose weight or you'll take this shot and you'll lose weight and it'll be this like quick instant 30-day result. And the reality is like doing it, I would say like as naturally as possible, as close to how God designed us, getting back to how we were designed to live, at least 2% closer, right? I think our society has gone so far into convenience and like everything that's so far from what we were designed for.
Yeah, because that's something that I've just witnessed secondhand in like, there's almost like a unwritten like competition in the crunchy world.
Oh, there for sure is. I've seen that too.
Where it's like, oh, I'm crunchier than her.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, actually, this shampoo isn't actually clean. And it'll drive you insane.
Yeah. And it's okay to learn new information. Like when we first started this journey, I thought some of the stuff I was buying was like great. And then I came to find out like, oh, that was just good marketing. And I was not actually getting anything better than the cheaper dish soap I was buying, you know? So it's not bad to get new information and make a new, better decision, but like also not to spiral when that happens and be like, oh my gosh, you know, it's like, that's just the reality because things can change, products can change, all of that. You're listening to She with me, Jordan Lee Dooley, a faith-based wellness podcast to support you in your motherhood journey and inspire you to be good to your body. Come invited, leave ignited. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here on the new She podcast set.
The new studio that you helped me create.
Yeah.
How do we feel about this gallery wall?
I would have done a frame TV. That way you could make it whatever, but...
Okay, but how did you feel about the install?
I was extremely frustrated. Did not
Someone
like it
asked us, they were like, did your marriage survive putting up the gallery?
We're still here.
Like, barely.
Still got the ring on.
I don't have mine on, but not because I don't want to, but because my fingers are swollen because of pregnancy. It was like cutting it in my circulation.
Yep.
So I would like to interview you today on a topic that I would say you have a good perspective on and maybe a slightly different perspective than me in some ways when it comes to all things like wellness, health, making lifestyle changes, living more naturally. And it's interesting because I feel like as much as I have driven a lot of our like swaps journey and all of that over the last couple years, I also feel like you kind of led the way in some ways because before I ever got into this, you were like into having chickens and like locally sourced stuff. And so you had your own
hunting. Your own food.
Okay, tell me your perspective on hunting of like how it's like the closest grass-fed, whatever. How do you, like you have your perspective.
Yeah, you could pay, you know, $12 a pound for grass-fed ground beef, or you can go and spend a little time in the woods and get a deer. And I mean, it's not free because it's your time, but
you always say like, "Hey, don't you want local grass-fed?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't know if I want to eat a deer."
You want local grass-fed? It doesn't get any better than that. So,
well, I want to ask you questions about your perspective on crunchy living. I don't know if crunchy is the right word because that has some nuance to it, but natural living, sourcing as well as you can, being thoughtful about what you put in and on your body, all that stuff, because. For various reasons, but I've talked with many women, and a lot of times I get messages from women who say like, hey, I'm starting to learn a lot about this, and I can see why it'd be important for my kids' health or my health or my husband and I's fertility or whatever, but my husband's not on board, or he's not so sure about it, or he thinks it's excessive. And I think you can understand that perspective, and I feel like you've also been relatively supportive of a lot of the things that I've chosen. So before we jump in, I want to first start with how would you, as a guy, whatever, how would you define crunchy or like non-toxic lifestyle? Like, how do you define that?
I think just trying to live as naturally minded as possible.
I'd say that's accurate.
Yeah. Can it be a bit of obsessive? Yes.
And I think that's a
and we'll touch on that.
Yeah, I think it can, and that's a big thing that I'm like learning. The what?
The lamp.
Yeah, we'll get to that story. Okay, so let me pull up my questions here for you because I put a Q&A on Instagram and I was like, what do you guys want to know from Matt? So I want to pull up those questions, but I have a few questions I want to start with first. So the first is, what was your honest thought? This is my question. When I first started making a lot of these changes, which was, I would say like early 2020, late 2019, kind of when we had our first miscarriages, I started kind of uncovering a little bit at a time about different things that can impact our hormones, our bodies, et cetera. What was your first initial thought when I started changing all this stuff?
I was like, well, okay, like it's understandable, but this is kind of foreign. Yeah, I feel like I was supportive. There's definitely a few things that were a little odd.
Like what? You mean in the beginning or just in general throughout this whole thing?
I guess in the beginning.
Okay.
It was kind of like the EMF stuff.
Okay, give us your honest thoughts on EMF stuff. Like, I feel like we're not totally on the same page with EMF stuff.
I think there definitely could be dangers just because we haven't had, Bluetooth's only been around for 20 years maybe?
Probably less. Yeah.
So it hasn't been really studied. And for that, for example, I do a lot of driving as a real estate agent and I need to be hands-free. And if my cord isn't working in my car, I'll throw in AirPods. I know.
It makes me sad.
Guilty.
I'm he comes home with them, and I'm take them out of your ears.
If I'm working in the shop, in the garage or something, having cords in the way while you're trying to work is really frustrating. And so I don't live, I don't live with them in my ears. But there are definitely certain situations, like Indiana, we have a hands-free driving law, and so I can't be like this. And then even then, you're holding your phone to your head. So it's kind of
yeah. I just put it on speaker, which may not be that much better, but it's just little things.
I also am a little hard of hearing, and so I need it plugged into my
brain.
Cochlea.
Your cochlea? Is that really a word?
I think that's a thing.
I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that's the right word. I don't know.
Google it. Cochlea.
That's where I would say I just think about the ways we do things a little bit different. It's not that you're completely disregarding anything around EMFs, but you're a lot less concerned about it. And you'll make a lot more what's the right word? I don't know if compromises is the right word, but situations like that where you're I'm going to use them while I am doing something.
Right.
Whereas I don't remember the last time I put AirPods in my head.
Yeah.
In my ears.
So. And on the flip side, you don't want to if you read the Apple manual, you're not supposed to touch your iPhone. There's actually a disclosure in there that says hey.
Wait, really?
Yeah. You want to have at least a case on it.
Oh.
And so if you're holding it like this, it's touching your head, and where I can leave my iPhone charging. On a table and be 30 feet away and have a conversation.
Why do they have that you shouldn't touch it? That's spooky.
Look it up. It's in the manual.
I've honestly wondered if we're all going to get hand cancer. Is that a thing?
It's a massive
can our fingers get tumors on them? I know that sounds kind of sad, but I'm and kind of morbid, but just think about how much our hands are coming into contact with that. Even because I've tried to hold it a little bit further away from my body just to be cognizant, but I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah. So I
kind
guess
of random tangent there.
I guess kind of going off on that. God's already decided our expiration date. And so in my mind, I'm do I want to drink and smoke and do hard drugs and accelerate that process? No. But it's I could be the crunchiest person on the planet and then walk outside and get hit by a car. So it's you got to have a balanced perspective of it. It's you want to be a good steward of your body that God's given you, but also it can't become an idol because it's really easy for
and
that
it is
stuff to
I
become
slip
an idol.
into that a lot, and I think it's interesting too because I think for a lot of the moms who are making these changes or women who hope to be moms, this is another thing. For me, I've never felt for the most part, I'm not necessarily making a lot of these changes to avoid death because that would be silly. We all know that we're going to face suffering and whatnot. But I also think about it more from, I look at our generation and how much chronic disease and rates of infertility and miscarriages, all of that is happening. And when you're personally impacted by something like that, there's two things. One, I wanted to make these changes for the sake of a healthier environment when I was pregnant, and also for the sake of being able to even potentially have children to improve our odds of that. Of course, making non-toxic swaps doesn't guarantee anything. We know people personally who that hasn't changed anything for, so it's not a guarantee, but just to improve our fertility and health in that regard. And also to give our children as healthy of a foundation as possible, because I think about all of the different things that we were exposed to growing up unknowingly. How would our parents have known, or how would we have known?
Kool-Aid, the twist off, the plastic, those are so good. The blue and the red ones.
But they were just loaded
with blue dye, red 40, and it's why does everyone have ADD?
Right. So it's it's more for me, not so much about avoiding death or all things, because you can't, but more so how do we, now that when you know something, knowledge is power. So how do you make better, what does it look like to make better decisions, to give your children as, solid of a foundation as possible, knowing they're still living in a fallen world. You can't avoid all exposures, but what can you minimize? What can you optimize? That's kind of my perspective. And I think you'd probably say you agree on that.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
It's easy to kind of get carried away too, because then every time you're exposed to plastic, you're you just, once it's kind of hard to unknow. Anyway, okay, so my initial question was, what was your thought when I first started making changes? Overall, you'd say you were a little skeptical.
A little weird, yeah.
But also supportive given the circumstances we were in.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
What's your thought now? I guess you kind of did just share that. That was kind of, I wanted to know would you say that your belief in it or how much you value some of the changes has overall grown, even if there's still some things you have more of a balanced approach on? Or
yeah, for sure. I'm a lot
like
more
you've learned a lot more.
Yeah.
I feel like you've done a lot of things, like things that you've like found or researched and sent to me that you've been like, oh, this is interesting. Okay.
No.
I was just curious if like your perspective on it has changed at all. Okay, so here's something that I want to hear. This is a question of mine, then we'll get into some more of the Q&A. But what would you say that women who like a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times this does start with a mom discovering something, right? Or learning about dyes or toxins in products or whatever. What would you say to like a health conscious mom or like a crunchy mom or a mom who wants to make some of these changes or just a wife who wants to make some of these changes proactively when it comes to how to navigate this with their husband? Like what should they know? How can they honor and respect him and not just like push him to be doing all of these things, but also help him? Because it's ultimately from a place of care. Like I know for me, it's not like I just am trying to control, but I care about your well-being. I care about our family's fertility, all these things. But like, how can we do that respectfully? How can we do that well? And what do we need to know about a man's perspective or most men's thoughts on these types of things? Because I think we can tend to like have a stronger opinion on some of this.
Yeah, I think in general, speaking generalities, like men are much more like when it comes to decision making, it's kind of like, okay, we'll lay it out like logically. What does this mean? Okay, here's this study, here's that study. Okay, where it can be easy, I think, as a wife and a mom to like look at something, or maybe there's something that's not based in anything. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is like...
This could be a risk.
This could be a risk. And if it's like, well, honey, we got to get rid of the microwave. It's like, that's a major inconvenience, you know? Why? And I think laying out the reasons is definitely helpful. Because like we took our microwave out, we have a toaster oven now. And I'm not going to lie, like it's a lot more inconvenient than a microwave because it takes, you know, 15 minutes to warm up food versus 30 seconds. But it was something that was like, okay, hey, there's this study that talks about this, like it emits this much radiation, you should be this far away, you know. Ours was like above the counter. There's a lot now that are like under the counter, which is like right where, you know.
Your fertile organs are. Fertile organs.
Fertile organs. Yeah, add that to the lexicon.
Reproductive organs. Well, and also ours was on the other side of our son's wall, so I didn't know how that might. And the hard part is, you know, with that too, certain things that you might want to change proactively, there's not always studies on up front. And I think that's where it can be difficult because, you know, you don't want to be forcing somebody, like, as a wife, you don't want to be like trying to feel like you're forcing your husband to do something. But at the same time, sometimes things like what you mentioned, like I'm sure in 20 years, we'll probably have a lot more studies on the same, like I think about tobacco. Like when everyone in our grandparents' generation were smoking, they didn't really have a whole lot of like, or like tobacco, like smoking cigarettes. They didn't have a lot of safety studies or the companies that had interest in, you know, the cigarettes being sold, whatever. So like later it was when everyone was like, oh, that wasn't good for us. So I think that's where it's tricky too for us as women because we might want to make proactive changes just in case.
Right, but the studies at the time could be like, hey, this Lucky Strike is the #1 doctor recommended cigarette.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's like, what else has been recommended by doctors recently?
Right. We have lots of thoughts on that. But truly, like, that's kind of where it's difficult because in some of these changes, I think a lot of us have looked at historically how many things we were told were safe, only for that to not be true.
Right.
So I think even just explaining that to your husband, like, hey, there at this point is not some study I can point to that says this is bad. But I feel that as parents or as a couple, it may be prudent for us to be a little cautious around X, Y, or Z because let's look at historically the amount of things that we've been told are safe only to find out that they're not. So if there's something that, you know, feels risky, what can we agree on to where we maybe minimize our exposure but don't cut it out altogether, or I cut it out altogether but I can live with you doing X, Y, and Z, you know, that kind of thing. Like
one of those things recently, like for us, where we've like made compromises is my nicotine use.
No, jeez. I have so... You can't just say that.
Yeah, I can. Product placement out. Please sponsor She Podcast.
No, please don't. Please don't.
But this is one of those things that's like, hey, hun, like, and it goes both ways. So like for me, when I was talking to you about this, you heard nicotine, you immediately thought cigarettes, cancer. And I was able to show you a lot of studies that say, hey, like nicotine it's neuroprotective against Alzheimer's. Like it doesn't have a lot of, you know, negative side effects.
Nicotine itself.
Nicotine itself.
In its purest form, but I don't know that it's in its purest form in this little sachet thing. Can you not be putting this in your mouth on my podcast? You are going to get kicked out of this studio.
Again, it was one of those things where I said, hey, babe, like, look, this helps me focus. It acts as a natural appetite
and
suppressant.
You chose it over because you were on Adderall in college. And
Yeah,
you've
high
since
school
been
and
off
college.
of that.
Yep.
You've since been off of that
On
for
a
a long
prescription.
time. Yes, but like
because there were I read studies on that and showed how that could potentially, affect fertility and I didn't like the way that the medication made me feel, and it wasn't something that I used all the time. But yeah, I mean, I was like, hey, if I can take nicotine, for me, it's like.
And you don't take it a lot. It's not like you're using the thing, but I still don't love it. But those are the things in marriage where like he doesn't love that I have gotten rid of our microwave, or there's certain things where he's like, I don't know that this is 100% necessary, but like I'll support you.
Like we have a switch in our bedroom that's connected via radio frequency to a outlet, a plug. And that's what our router's plugged into, and we shut off our Wi-Fi every night. Do I think it's dumb? Kinda. We're not like sleeping next to the router. But it was one of those things, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
like that it's a compromise we're gonna make, and I think the benefits outweigh the downside, the positives.
Because who's using the Wi-Fi at night anyway, other than for the cameras, which
apart from like security cameras, but like you can get hardwired security cameras, which we've talked about.
Yeah. Well, and I think the bottom line too is like the reality is in marriage, like there's gonna be things that you're 100% on the same page with. Like there are a lot of things from a medical perspective or decisions for our kids or whatever that we're like 100% same page, like no questions asked. And then there's these nuances where overall he's been relatively supportive and even on board, like you've changed a lot of your products and whatnot. Yeah. You still suck on your nicotine or whatever you do with it. What do you do with it?
It just sits in your gum.
It's just weird to me. Anyway, but like that's his, in my opinion, like non-crunchy vice, and you get coffee out more often than I do, like little things like that. But like I'd say on the big things, when it comes to marriage, it's like I think it's really a challenge to honor what the other values, and unless it's like morally corrupt or something.
And I think
but like,
working like kind of the ends justify the means in a way. So like for the nicotine, for example, like I've been really like diligently trying to lose weight for the past year. And so I'm down 25 pounds in the past year. And part of that is due to the natural appetite suppressing factors of nicotine. So it just like, hey, what's our end goal for, shutting the Wi-Fi off at night? Well, to decrease EMF exposure and increase our overall health. What's the term? Your
cellular health. Yeah.
Right, your cellular health.
Yeah.
Like for me, my end goal is to get to a healthy weight so I can be around for my wife and kids longer. So that's where I'm kind of like, okay.
And we differ on sometimes the way I think that we should get to a healthy weight, but I have to release that because there's things that, we're not going to totally see eye to eye on. And I think, but at the end of the day, on the big things, overall, how are you living in such a way that you can honor what the other values? There's certain things that he values that I'm like, I don't get that, but like, how can I support you in that, right? And vice versa. Like, you've asked me that same thing. Like, okay, how can I be helpful in this area? Or why is that important to you? Just seeking to understand. I think when you're in a married situation, if something is coming up for your wife, if you're a husband or vice versa for your spouse, or even if you're not married yet, like if it's something that's important to your person, I think asking and seeking to understand why is that important to you, and then asking yourself, like, where can I release that if I don't agree with it, right. Or where can I make compromises? And also, where do I really try to emphasize what truly is most important to me? Because I feel like on the big things, you've really overall been pretty like on board with. And you've come on board more and more. And then there's just certain things that I'm like, this isn't worth the fight. Like, I don't want to like nitpick every little thing. And sometimes I still do, but I try not to. Yeah. And you also are very good about saying like, okay, this is too much.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that...
The lamp.
You keep coming to the lamp. I promise we're going to get to the lamp story, but I want to share that in context of a question.
Yeah. And all these things, they're not like the biggest detriment. It's not like she's wrapping my head in aluminum foil before we go to bed. Like
I could if you want.
Please don't. So yeah, I think just being understanding, being open, being able to listen, and not just being like, nope, it's my way or the highway.
Yeah, and that's like, from the husband's perspective. Because that was my other question. From the husband's perspective,
yeah. Yeah. Because I think it's like, okay, like the wife and mother is like, she's naturally more inclined to nurture and be like the caretaker of the home, That's another thing, is like understanding that we like protect our family in different ways. Like you're going to be the guy who gets up if somebody intrudes into our home in the middle of the night, you'll make sure he's going to protect us in a way that I wouldn't. Throw the night vision on.
Right. But you like your way of, and then you do things to like make sure our home is secure, and like there's different things that you take on as a natural way of protecting. And that sometimes is more for like the existential circumstances, right? You're prepared for those things. You're ready, like, and willing and prepared to defend our family if we needed that. Now, it's similar from a wife's perspective, but it's more on like those little everyday things, the snacks you give your kids, the things, everything you allow in your home, whether that's through the means of media, a TV, people you let in your home, the groceries you buy, the things you put on your kids' skin or whatever. All of that is like, I think, part and a very connected to the nurturing and gatekeeping role. And I think the gatekeeper role we each have in a different way, right? Like we agree on what cartoons we let them watch or who we're going to have them around or what influences are in their life. But the reality is everything your kids are exposed to and everything your home is exposed to influences and shapes their physical health, their emotional health, their mental, their spiritual, like everything that they're exposed to is influencing them. And so you're going to look at that through the lens of like culture, media, people, friends, like you're protecting in those ways. And I look at those things too, but I'm more inclined to think about what are we feeding them? How are we nourishing their bodies? Like what are we allowing in? So I think you recognizing like, okay, this might be an area that is more natural to that type of protection that you have as a woman and as a mom. And then me deferring and knowing like, I'm going to trust that he knows the best security system to get or the best, home defense tools to have or whatever. Like, I don't know much about that, but you do.
It's an AR-15.
Stop.
Suppressed.
Stop.
I'm concerned about protecting my hearing if I have to use it indoors.
Okay, but to have like you have the things that you do to protect our family and the things that you are knowledgeable about and that you learn about and research from a man's perspective. And I think for men to hear your wife's doing that too. It just may not look like security systems and all of those types of things that men think about, or punching a guy in the street if he approaches your wife inappropriately. But we're still looking to protect our health and our families and you, honestly, because we also care about you. It's just not maybe so much from the like defense mechanism standpoint. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I think honoring like the gatekeeper role and recognizing that that's actually a gift, even if she's worried about things, like knowing that I think is important. And I'm glad that you highlighted that because I think that's something we can forget about and it can just feel like we're being crazy, Another question. If someone's husband isn't supportive, let's say somebody's, learning some things and wants to make some changes and her husband isn't supportive, what would you, like maybe she has her husband listening, what would you say to him?
I'd just say let down your pride and hear her out. Like hear what she has to say.
What if it's partly because it can be more expensive to buy these types of things or to buy, say, like healthier products or whatever?
I think just take a look at your budget and see, like, okay, well, if we're gonna, spend X on grass-fed beef, then that means we need to cut our Netflix subscription, or, whatever that is. Maybe we don't spend as much on clothes. It's got to be like give and take because you should live within your means. Yeah, that's probably what I'd recommend.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, and I also think I think that is a natural resistance. Like, did you think why are we buying more expensive stuff? Like, is it really that much better? Like, did you have that skepticism ever?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's certain things, like, I'm a total foodie. Like, I love to cook at home. And, like, personally, like, I like the way that grain-fed USDA prime New York strips taste over grass-fed New York strips. Like, there's more marbling, but there's also more, like, GMOs in the feed. And it's like, you're ingesting all that. So it's something that, it's like, now all we eat is grass-fed at home.
We make some exceptions here and there.
Yeah.
Like, especially for you.
Yeah.
Because you prefer it.
Well, and I'm also trying to get my protein intake.
Yeah.
And if I'm eating 2 pounds of ground beef every day, like, it adds up.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think that's true. And I think the other thing to consider is sometimes these things can be more expensive. There are ways to source it relatively comparable if you are looking, like locally and stuff. But
hunting is, like, honestly, hunting is an amazing option. Is it more, like, does it require more of your time? Yes. But you're getting something that's been living in the wild, like foraging on grass and corn and soybeans and whatever, for... I
don't know. I'm like, but not a lot of people like deer, or gamey stuff.
Most people don't know how to cook deer. If you've had a deer that's cooked well, it's up there with the best steak that you've ever had. But not deer heart.
Okay. You're not a
deer heart.
Yeah, he
fan.
tricked me into eating deer heart and didn't tell me that's what it was.
Deer heart tacos.
I was like, what the heck is this? And he's like, oh, that's the heart. And that was before I got into seeing the value of organ meat. So I was like, excuse me, what?
I was the Pathfinder trailblazer
that's what I'm saying. That's
on
what I'm
the
saying.
organ meat.
Well, that's what I mean. There's been certain things where you were kind of more ahead on certain things. Not even because you were like doing it from a health perspective.
When we had chickens.
He got chickens. We had locally sourced eggs from our literal backyard. I was like, why do we need chickens? These are so messy. Yeah, you've always been very like homesteady and like he's been very outdoorsy. So in various ways, I feel like you kind of...
And it's not something I've done forever. I only started hunting like 5 years ago.
Was it only 5 years? No, it was probably a little before that. Maybe 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But...
I'm old.
I'm old, you're not. Okay. One question that I got, and then I want to start getting into some of the other ones. But one question that I got, she said, how do I convince my husband to get an air purifier or a water filter? That's his resistance apparently right now. What are your thoughts on those things? I remember you were very skeptical about the air doctor situation for a while.
And then we had, I think it was 2021 is when, or 22, I think, is when there were all those wildfires.
It was 23. It was right when the boys were little.
Okay, yeah, 2023. There were a bunch of wildfires out west and up in Canada. And there was just like this haze and almost like a metallic smell in the air, like when you walked outside. And I remember just like, and I would get seasonal allergies, like super, super bad every year. Like sneezing all the time, runny nose, corn pollen in Indiana. I did not grow up in Indiana. I grew up in Arizona where there's no corn. And when that corn blossoms, I was just like a mess. How many air doctors did we get on the first order?
I think 3.
Yeah.
Like one
so we
for
had
the
like
main
one
living
for the
area.
main room, one for our bedroom, and one for
I think
the boys.
Noah's room because Shepard wasn't born yet when I first ordered them.
Okay. I just remember I was like, oh my gosh, like when I would open the door, those things would kick on and start running.
And then our house, like you could tell the difference between our indoor air and the outdoor air. When
like
the outdoor
the air
clearly
inside did not
clean.
smell.
Yeah.
Like it was like clean air. And then water too. Like just all the stuff that's in the tap water is just like get an RO filter installed, some kind of water purification, Berkey, whatever.
You don't think that's extra? Like you believe the water thing?
Oh, 100%.
Why? What's in water that you wouldn't want to be consuming all the time?
Birthogen from birth control that gets flushed in sewage there's literally a ton of estrogen in our water. Plus atrazine and all kinds of other stuff. I don't want to go down the Alex Jones rabbit hole too deep, but we can turn this into a conspiracy podcast.
No, we cannot.
Get deplatformed immediately. First episode.
Okay. But you're on board with air purifiers. So you felt like you were a little skeptical on the air purifier thing until you saw the difference it made because here's the thing, you don't realize how air can be full of pollutants and formaldehyde and VOCs.
Even the pollen and stuff. Like my allergies were like...
Yeah, you really haven't had allergies.
It knocked them down 99%.
I mean, now if you're not in our house for a while, our home, we're filtering the air, but not when you're out and about. So I'm sure it's something you're noticing when you're not at home. But like you were like not sleeping well.
You gotta get an air doctor in here.
I know. We put one in we got a rental property recently. I put one in there just because I care about people. I want them to breathe well. But I think it's helpful to hear that perspective because I think it can seem a little like, really, we need to filter our air. Why don't we just open the windows? And outdoor, typically, to clarify, is like cleaner than indoor air because indoor air you've got all sorts of off-gassing from furniture and everything else. So outside of like allergy season, fresh air is generally gonna be better. Like if you can't afford an air doctor, at least get some houseplants and like open your windows more often. But I think that situation where the outdoor air was like such poor air quality that you could smell it, you could see the haze. When you were able to see the differentiation it made between like when our indoor air was so much cleaner, it was like it kind of sealed the deal for you. I feel like, and now you're like, oh, these things actually work and they make a difference. So. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go through a couple questions that I got on Instagram specifically from people who want to hear from you, and then we'll wrap up. Okay, so someone said, do you ever think she's gone too far?
Yeah.
Okay, give us examples. Well, someone said, what's one of another question that's really related to that is what's one of the weirdest things she's done that you were not on board with?
The weirdest thing was I like to read in bed before I go to bed because it helps wind me down. Like I'm on my phone all day as a realtor, and I doom scroll. And it's really easy to do that.
Get on you about. We all do it.
But I got this little light that like plugs into the wall, and it mounts on top of your headboard, or you could mount it to the wall if you want. You like wedge it in behind the headboard, and because I don't like, we've got like a really bright chandelier that's not on a dimmer, and so I don't like having that on before bed. So it's just like a nice dim reading light. And I was sitting there reading, and what even happened?
Well, I was like washing my face or something, and then I came in, and I was starting to like I had turned off the Wi-Fi. Like I started doing my little routine to shut everything off. And then when you were going to bed, I asked you to unplug the lamp.
Yeah.
Which I thought was perfectly reasonable.
Reading. And the way that our plug is, it's right behind like the back post of the headboard. And so it's not easy to like plug in and unplug. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like it's an incandescent bulb. Like it's emitting like next to no EMFs.
I just don't like to have things plugged in my head.
The switch is off. And it's like we have electricity running through our walls at all time. That's what's keeping our heater on and our AC in the summer. And so I was like, absolutely, like, no, I'm not doing that. So we had a little tiff about that.
I was like, it's dirty electricity. Why do you have a lamp? You don't want anything plugged in by your head within a few feet. And you disagreed, and you just thought it was
I still leave my phone plugged in the bathroom.
Yeah, which I don't love, but at least it's 8 or 9. It's like 10 feet from our bed.
Yeah, and it's through 8 inches of drywall and studs.
Yeah, and you put it on airplane mode.
Yep.
Don't sleep with your phone by your bed, though. That's my number one tip. I'm like, I can live with a lamp being plugged in. But, okay, in my defense, though, I will say I was in my first trimester, and I get really anxious.
Pregnancy hormones.
No, I mean, probably, but it also...
Husbands, I feel for you. Future dads. It's a thing. It's a thing. Don't act like it's not a thing.
What's not a thing?
Your pregnancy hormones making you be like overly emotional.
But what I was saying is I was also
Can I have a sip of your water?
I guess. But what I was going to say is it wasn't, yes, obviously there's hormones involved, so I'm like more like emotional about things, so I probably took it more personally when you wouldn't unplug the lamp. But it was more, what I'm trying to say is I also am most anxious about exposures and things in my first trimester because that's the most delicate time.
Right.
I'd also had a breast cancer scare a few weeks earlier, so I was like extra like on alert of like anything that could negatively impact my health and body or my body or the baby. So, I mean, it's like, I think that was an existential circumstance because I've never asked you to do that before. It was just one of the, what did I say?
Exigent circumstance.
Exigent? I thought it was existential.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
I kind of want to Google that.
Exigent.
Exigent circumstance?
Yeah.
Well, then what's existential mean?
Existential does not mean that. I know that.
Okay. I don't know. We'll look it up. Somebody let us know. So anyway, long story short, the lamp is still plugged in by our bed.
Lamp's still plugged in. I'm still getting my books in. I read like 23 books last year, trying to hit 30 this year.
Okay. All right. Another question we got is, did Matt change anything about his own health when you guys were on your fertility journey? And does he believe that's important?
Absolutely.
Okay. Give us some examples. What do you think is some of the most important things that you did on your end of things?
I think even like going to the cell phone, like not having the cell phone plugged in next to your bed, not putting it in your front pocket where it's close to your reproductive organs.
Your fertility organs.
Fertility organs. We don't go out to eat nearly as much as we used to.
Yeah, I feel like in the last, like there's been periods throughout the kids' lives when things are really busy that I've made more compromise. I feel like you could give me some credit on
We've had Jimmy John's like 3 times this week, though.
You have. You got me. Okay, in pregnancy, I have craved the veggie sub, and I get the little 6-inch one. It's my vice right now. It's fine. Yeah. I eat 99% organic outside that. But I will say, can you give me some credit, though? Because I do feel like to balance things out, I have made a lot more like willing sacrifices or like compromises. Because when you have 2 toddlers and you're both working and things are crazy, occasionally I'm like, okay, fine, we'll order out tonight. It's not my preference. I'd prefer to, cook a grass-fed meal inside, but you're at home, but inside, not over the fire outside.
Well, instead of the Blackstone, like when you set the smoke alarms off after the boys went down for a nap this week.
The boys had just gone down for a nap, like 10 minutes after they fell asleep, and I was making a little like grass-fed patty burger, whatever, on our cast iron inside because I didn't know how to turn on the Blackstone because that's usually something you do. And you were on the phone or doing something, so I just was like,
I don't even think I was in the house.
Maybe you went outside. You were on a call, so I just didn't bother you. So I just started cooking this patty, and I forgot to turn our little vent on. And our smoke detectors are so sensitive.
Like if you were sitting at a campfire the night before and you like walk in wearing the same clothes, like they go off. Yeah. It's so annoying.
So they went off so loud. Woke up both of the boys. Shepard's like screaming, and he's going loud. And I was like, I'm sorry,
and then
buddy.
Noah fell back asleep like this.
And then when he woke up from his nap, he was commenting about how it was
fire loud. Loud.
He went to sleep with that memory. I was like, I'm so sorry. So anyway, what does that have to do with the Blackstone though?
Because you didn't use the Blackstone.
He was like, why didn't you cook it outside?
Because you said cooking indoors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. So anyway, but like I would rather, eat in and make homemade meals 99% of the time and make like 1 exception a week. But there's been a few times where I'm like, okay, we've made 2 or 3 or 4 exceptions this week, which isn't my favorite, but.
And there's just seasons for that. Yeah. It's like also when you're traveling, like you don't have to do dishes at your hotel or Airbnb.
Yeah.
It's
which I still like to, when we get an Airbnb or a house, I do cooking, at least for like breakfast and lunches. I'm like, we'll go out to dinner, or whatever. So it's finding those balances because, you'd probably, if I wasn't the way I was, you would probably eat out a lot more than we do. Yeah. And I would probably not eat out at all. So like,
it's helped my health a lot, like just with my weight loss journey.
Yeah. To eat in more.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, another question someone asked, and I think this is a good one. Is it good stewardship to invest or spend more on non-toxic or healthier things from a Christian perspective? Like, do you think that's good stewardship?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
I mean, your body's a temple, but it shouldn't be the idol. So I think, like, within reason, like, do what you can. Don't go into debt to eat healthy.
Or to get non-toxic products.
Right, yeah. It's like a sliding scale. It's like just do as much as you can within the bounds of your budget and your family's needs. And it's like, if you got 6 kids running around at home and, like, maybe you're not able to, like, cook every meal because you're, like, wrangling 6 kids. So, all right, maybe there's a season, or, like, after Shep was born, like, a few friends of ours got us DoorDash gift cards, which are the best, like, baby gift.
For dads, anyway.
For new parents, because it's just, like, you're, like, insulating, you're getting used to your routine in your home. And it's
I think from my perspective as a mom, though, who's postpartum and trying to heal, eating, like, fast food delivery is not something that is, like, something
not
you want
fast
to feel
food,
like
but
good about.
even like restaurant, takeout.
Yeah,
like
I get what you're
said,
saying.
there's a balance. You know, it's like you have to weigh, like, convenience and health sometimes.
But going back to what the question was about, is it good stewardship, specifically non-toxic products, like finding,
I think so.
Like not putting yourself into debt for it, but finding where you can make adjustments and investing. And I look at it as an investment as much as, like, sometimes when you buy a shampoo or something, it feels just like a cost. It feels like another item on your grocery bill. But when you think about those types of things, it's like, but shifting from an expense to an investment, like, there's a cost either way.
Right.
You know, and it's kind of like, where's the bigger cost? And that's going to be a different answer per product, per family. But I think that's true. I do think it is. I think taking the steps to make better investments into the things that you choose to use is part of stewardship, as is making wise financial decisions. You know, and I think what that looks like for each of us is also going to look different. A family with, 2 working parents and 1 child versus a single income family with 6 children is going to have different abilities to do things, and that's okay. It's like, I think the biggest thing is not to compare what you're able to do compared to what somebody else is able to do. It's just
because that's something that I've just witnessed secondhand in, like, there's almost like a unwritten, like, competition in the crunchy world.
Oh, there for sure is. I've seen that too.
Where it's like, oh, I'm crunchier than her.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, actually, this shampoo isn't actually clean. And it'll drive you insane.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, look, like, like I said, do the best with the best you can with what you have. And it's like, it's not
And it's okay to learn new information. Like, when we first started this journey, I thought some of the stuff I was buying was, like, great. And then I came to find out, like, oh, that was just good marketing, and I was not actually getting anything better than the cheaper dish soap I was buying, So it's not bad to get new information and make a new, better decision, but, like, also not to spiral when that happens and be like, oh my gosh, it's like, that's just the reality, because things can change, products can change, all of that. Okay. All right. Next question. Someone asked, how do you lead well when your wife wants to make swaps that you're not on board with, or make changes you don't see the value of?
Well, like I said, it's like you got to humble yourself and, like, hear her out. If it's going to be something that's going to, like, completely wreck your budget, and it's like, hun, we can't afford that. Like, sorry, we're going to have to find other ways to,
That's what I was saying. Like, maybe an ear doctor isn't something that you get this year, but can you get some houseplants and keep your windows open in the nice weather? That's better than doing nothing.
Yeah,
and maybe you save up to those types of things.
Consulting with each other. Is really big, and then ultimately, saying, like, hey, all right, like, we'll do that, but we're gonna have to cut XYZ. Like, maybe we don't go out to eat every week, maybe it's every 2 weeks, so that we can afford X. That's what I would say.
Okay. I think this is a similar question. Do you feel like it takes away from your role as, like, a provider or leader in the family when you disagree on these types of things? Like,
I mean, it depends. Are you, like, going out and getting it anyway?
What do you mean?
Like, is the wife going out and getting it anyway?
Like, you mean if you have a conversation, you agree on one thing, and then she goes and does something else?
Or if you if you say, hey, we're not going to do that, and then she goes out and gets it instead, then that's like...
That feels disrespectful.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And what would you, like, I think, and similarly, like, I think I'm sure as, like, women, when they're trying to express something that is important to them, or a reason why they want to purchase something or change something or whatever, and it just is, like, kind of just written off, that equally feels disrespectful because you feel like you're not heard.
But
so
I think
it really
that's
takes
where
give and
it comes with that conversation of, like, okay, what are we going to...
And where do we begin?
Yeah, what are we going to cut to afford this,
If it's a budget question. Because sometimes it's also just a belief. Like, here's the other thing. In some cases, men, I think, are resistant because it's a financial thing. In other cases, I think men are resistant because it's inconvenient, or because they like what they use. They like their favorite snacks. They like their favorite sodas. They like what they've used their whole life.
So here's something, like, if you can find something. So Jordan's been really on me about, like, drinking organic coffee
He's
at
a
home.
coffee snob. So
like, I love coffee.
Yeah.
And it's got all these pesticides in it, and it has mold, and I'm like, okay. Like,
I'm like, you're literally drinking
So
Roundup.
does blue cheese. You know?
I don't like blue cheese either.
And she's tried, like, a few different brands. One of them,
The
literally,
organic coffee brands, you mean?
different coffee brands.
No, organic.
Organic coffee brands. One of them literally smelled like barbecue sauce coming out of our espresso machine. And it was like, she's like, can you make me a latte with this? And I was like, are you sure? Like, okay. And I'm like holding my nose as I'm like pulling the shot. But she found one recently that's like really good. And so
It took me like 10 tries. But
that's one that we've been
so
using.
your point is like finding things that he'll actually like.
Right. So if he likes to eat Lunchables, like find something else that's like Lunchables, you know,
That's better.
but it's healthier, you know.
The homemade Lunchables, yeah.
Right. Do something like that.
Yeah. I think it's just a resistance to change. Like I think sometimes some people in general, and I think especially sometimes men, have a resistance to change when it's unfamiliar. Not all men, that's a generalization, but I think it's...
And also I think you kind of want to see, like, it's tough because so much of this stuff is like unseen. It's like, okay, well, I don't really feel a whole lot different. Like, it's like maybe I don't have as much brain fog or whatever, but like that's really subjective. But I think like seeing changes and like do what works for your spouse's lifestyle too.
Do you think... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because like for me, it's like I've been eating XYZ. Like there were these like chicken meatballs at Costco. They weren't organic, but like macro-wise, like they're good. The ingredient list, apart from not being organic, is really good. And it was something that I was like really enjoying, and I was seeing results from that. And so
In terms of like your weight loss journey.
in terms of my weight loss journey. And so I remember there was a time where you're like, well, like you shouldn't be eating this much, but you know, this stuff or whatever. And I just kind of had to tell her, like, look, Jordan, like, it's working for me. Like, and again, it's the ends justify the means thing a little bit. But I think the more that you can show as much measurable
benefit,
the more likely your husband will be to
well, and that's what's hard about some
make
of this
those
stuff
changes.
because sometimes it's not instant. Like making changes like this, a lot of times women are making, sometimes for their own health with like, they have painful periods or they're, you know, have an irregular cycle or they're, you know, struggling to lose weight or whatever the thing is. And so sometimes it takes time for that to show. But I feel like I noticed a difference. You probably saw the difference in my skin. Like it didn't happen in the first year or two. Like I'd have improvements and then I'd have setbacks, right? But like as I kind of found the changes that I needed to make, my skin's 99% better than it ever was. I mean, it was pretty bad there for a while. And so you can physically see that. So I think those types of things also have been able to help you see the benefit, but sometimes they're not overnight. And I think that's what whoever is resistant, usually it's the man in these cases, but it can go the other way too. I think that's where it's like being open and understanding that it's not like a quick fix overnight. Like what our society has like sold us is these ideas of like, hey, drink this powder or take this pill and like you'll feel better or you'll lose weight or you'll take this shot and you'll lose weight and it'll be this like quick instant 30-day result. And the reality is like doing it, I would say like as naturally as possible, as close to how God designed us, getting back to how we were designed to live, at least 2% closer, right? I think our society has gone so far into convenience and like everything that's so far from what we were designed for, that starting to make those changes to get closer to that, it's like you slowly start to see improvement, but it's not always something that's super obvious right away. But I do think that's really good insight is like doing some, like sometimes you have to find like the middle of like what works for you that's better, but maybe not perfect. One other thing I want to ask you is, do you think that had we not gone through the journey we did to kids and had the miscarriages and stuff, do you think you would have been even more resistant to some of the things?
For sure.
Because I do think that might be why some, like if you don't have, and this sounds like kind of sad to say, but I think it's true, unless you have some sort of like tragedy or adversity or like bad health event, adverse health event that really makes you rethink the way you're living. If you're just like living life and things seem fine and you haven't had a big fertility issue or whatever, it can kind of make you go like, really? I've been fine. You know, I did all this stuff growing up and I ate all this and I've been doing this for 30 years and I'm fine. And I think that's where a lot of men's resistance come from. I think financial is part of it, but not for all families. And I think the other part of it is like if they haven't had some massive thing that's made them rethink everything, the medical system or the products they're using or whatever, it's a lot easier to just think, why would I inconvenience myself that much? You know? So I think that's also something to consider. And I think why I've been so passionate about sharing a lot of what I've learned, not necessarily from like I'm the expert at it, but more like I'm just a friend sharing what I've learned, is because I don't necessarily, like I look back, I'm like, I kind of wish I would have known this before we went through all this stuff. Not to say 100% would have prevented it, because you never know. But I think it's sad that so many people wait until they've had some sort of crisis or tragedy that makes them rethink a lot and start questioning things and trying to look for better options, you know? So I think if you're a man or a husband who's resistant to some of this, that may be why. But like, I guess my encouragement, I'd be curious if your encouragement is like, don't wait until there's like some terrible reason to make a big change. Because I think that's kind of where we were.
Yeah.
And I was wait.
Like I said, you want to be a good steward of the body God gave you and the family that he's given you and the spouse that he's given you. And so don't just like waste it away, you know, because there are probably, just from post-football to, there are probably 6 years that I just kind of like, oh, I'm going to eat fast food all the time and like eat a lot. And, you know, and I'm an emotional eater. And so I feel like looking back, I'm like, man, where could I be right now if I had just like buckled down early and established these patterns early and not, you know, let myself fall off the wagon like that. So. Yeah.
And we all respond to things differently. And it's interesting because, like, I think even though we were kind of going on a crunchy journey in some ways and making a lot of these changes, like you said, that for a couple of years there, it was also you kind of were like emotionally, you're eating your way through, like that was your way of coping. And so as much as I was trying to like make healthy changes in one area of like our products and stuff, it was like, it took a while to kind of get to the point where we were like running more like next to each other in this. And I think that's also an encouragement. I think a lot of times women think, oh my gosh, my husband's not on board when I'm wanting to start this. Like, we're going to be at odds. And it's like, I think the most, like, one thing that I really felt convicted by is like, just to like pray that he would see what's important to me. And also that the Lord would like soften my heart toward the things that he wasn't totally on board with, because otherwise, and there's still times where I will be like, hey, don't do that, you know, and I have to kind of like catch myself, because you don't want to create so much conflict within your relationship that it's like, that's just like that much stress also is not healthy.
Right.
But I think praying for that and like trusting that it can take time to get on the same page, and you may never see 100% eye to eye. We still don't see 100% eye to eye on things, but overall we try to like honor what the other values and like tell each other when they're being too much or like not listening or whatever it is. Like just that honest communication, I think it's like, it's built over time. You're not just going to become like a crunchy family overnight, or, and that's okay, you know, and there's going to be things that you do. Like I like to get my nails done still. That's not crunchy at all. And like, he doesn't shame me for it, you know? And you have your nicotine thing that I don't love, but like, it is what it is, you know? So anyway, anything else you want to share on this topic that you feel like wives should know or men should know or anything like that? Anything you wish you knew before our fertility stuff that kind of prompted this whole journey? Like, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
Don't eat fast food. And
even though you literally just said you've had Jimmy John's this week.
But I mean, like,
but like consistently.
Right, consistently. Like McDonald's for breakfast, you know, Culver's for lunch. Panda Express for dinner.
Did you do that?
Oh, yeah.
I think we all had times in our life where we've done that. Okay. Last question that I want to ask that somebody asked you is, do you ever do your own research, or do you just defer to any research that I do?
No, I do my own research. Yeah.
And do you think that's important for men to do?
Yeah.
Because
sometimes, I think to a degree, like, you can have a study that says whatever you want it to say. Like,
depending on who funds it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think just looking at that objectively, like taking a step back, like, do your own research. And, you know, hopefully you come to the same conclusion and you can be united on that.
And I think there's been times where you've been able to bring, like, actually, that's not really as much of a concern as you might think it is, or like, I'm not as worried about that. I'd rather us focus on this. Like, you've been able, because you've looked into things, not as much. I don't think you're going down as many rabbit holes as I am, but you do look into this stuff and find it interesting. Rabbit holes that are not related to this. He goes down his own rabbit holes. But that's the other thing, is like, you have topics and things that you're passionate about that I'm not as like interested in, and vice versa. And so again, it comes back to like, you know, honoring what the other values. And there's certain things I defer to him on because he's more knowledgeable. And sometimes that's not even health stuff. You know, that's cars and other purchases we make. I'm like, you know way more about buying good real estate and making investments and what cars we should buy. Like, I'm going to defer to you on those things. And I've kind of communicated to you, like, I'm not saying you don't know anything about health, and I'm not saying I don't know anything about cars, but it's something that I've been so much more like interested in. So a lot of times he'll like a lot of times you defer to something that I've found, but every now and then if it seems a little out there, he'll go investigate it and be like, yeah, actually that's legit. Or you'll be like, no, we're not doing that. Yeah. And I think that's helpful because otherwise, you do need that balance a little bit. So I think that's good. Well, thank you. For being here, sir.
First guest.
Yeah, first guest of the new season, the new
podcast season,
the new and improved she.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
let us know how you like the video.
Yeah. Well, the video's a work in progress, but we got the studio set up, and he's my producer right now. Like your alter ego is like he's also kind of a professional videographer and sound guy, and it's kind of like his little. You've done that on the side for a while, so now I'm like, cool. Can I use those skills? Because I don't know anything about this. I can press a record button, and that's about it. So, anyway, well, I hope this was helpful. If you are somewhere on a health journey, either individually or with your boyfriend, fiance, husband, etc. But like, I just think I don't think there's any other rules.
No.
But usually, as a couple, there's going to be differences, and I just feel like this is a topic where there's times we've clashed on it and there's times we felt really united, and I think that's just naturally part of the journey. So there's not something wrong with your husband if he's not totally on board, and there's not something wrong with you if it's, if you're not like communicating it well. And I hope this was helpful just to hear from a guy like, hey, here's, some perspective from my side. So love it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We'll do it again soon.
All right.
Cheers.
Tink.
I know. The kids, they take their bottles and they go, tink.
To learn more about the She Podcast or get involved in our growing community, come hang out on Instagram at Jordan Lee Dooley or check out the show notes for each episode at jordanleedooley.com/show notes. Thanks for tuning in today, and until next time, stay rooted in faith and remember to do the small things to be good to your body daily.